John?
Hope I'm not late, am
No, you're right on time.
John, you're right here.
Down there.
Oh, next to your
I? Just
favorite.
keep walking.
Yeah.
Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of the Old Kings Highway Committee of the Town of Yarmouth, which is being held in accordance with Chapter 470 of the Acts of 1973 as amended at 7:15 on Monday, April 24th, 2023, at the Yarmouth Town Hall Hearing Room located at 1146 Route 28, South Yarmouth. Moreover, pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, considering certain COVID-19 measures, this meeting is being run in a hybrid mode, live and on Zoom, and possibly some phone participation. 5 applications for certificates of appropriateness and 1 certificate of demolition and 1 tabled application will be heard this evening in the order listed on the agenda. In addition, the committee will conduct an informal review. Please be reminded that our committee's main purpose is to review items for appropriateness and setting, and it is the responsibility of the applicant to comply with the regulations of other town boards and departments, including building, conservation, engineering, health, zoning, and the sign inspector. You should know that there is a 10 calendar day appeal period starting once a decision is filed with the town clerk. Any person aggrieved by our decision tonight can appeal to the Regional Commission of the Old Kings Highway Historic District. Our office administrator, Lisa Sherman, will be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this process. So our procedure is that we will call the application, the applicant or applicant's representative will come to the table, present your proposal without interruption from this committee, and then the committee will ask questions, and we'll open it up for comments and/or questions from abutters and other interested members of the public. The first application tonight is 23-A37, A037. Stanley Farrow is the owner, and Konstantin Alexandrov is the agent, and it is to build an addition to the rear of 120 Pine Street. And do we have either Stanley or Konstantin here tonight? We do.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good
You
evening.
Stanley, or are you Konstantin?
Konstantin.
Okay. Tell us what you are proposing.
We're proposing to build the addition, as you can see on the drawings there. It's to the back of the house. The house is located on a corner lot on the intersection of Robert Run and Pine Street. So it's pretty much self-explanatory.
That's it? Okay. Any questions from the committee?
What is the total area that you're adding? About, doesn't have to be exact.
So the total addition is about 22 by 15. So just about 300 square feet, a little over.
Okay.
Actually, it is a little under 300 square feet, I think, because the corner is clipped.
Okay.
The clip corner on the back is because of the septic components.
Ah, yeah.
So we actually coordinated with the health department before we drafted the addition. So we met with them on site, and they agreed that this clip corner is necessary.
Okey-dokey.
I have only one comment, sir. I think it's a fine design. On the gable end, you show a line, the upper quadrant. Is that a piece of trim on the outside edge? A piece of trim or a little flare in the shingle or something? I'm just curious what that might be.
So this is because we're adding to the gable end, but on the back side. So this is just the connection between, this is just the connection, like, are you talking about this?
I think he's
No,
talking
no,
about
on
this.
the back, the 13-foot.
No, that's just a bug in the software, I
Break.
apologize.
So it's just a
Yeah.
horizontal break in the shingle?
Yeah, it's not even supposed to be a break there.
Oh, it's just gonna be a continuous shingles
it's a
all the way
little,
up.
Yeah, it's either my printer or it's a bug in the 3D software.
Okay, but it's just, it's a full wall of shingles.
Yeah.
And then the only other comment I have, and it's not really a design, a comment about the design. I'm just curious, I was just curious, and obviously you can do whatever you wish. Why do you have the door to the bathroom bedroom swinging out and not in against the wall there? That just, again, just in
So
terms of
the-
functionality, it has nothing to do with our review, but I just would suggest that maybe you're.
That might change,
Oh,
but that was pretty much the desire of the owner.
Oh.
Like, we didn't really, like, that was their input, so.
I think it's deftly done, considering you have a leaching field, and quite frankly, it helps to not by, I think, intent. Initially, you can't make it, you have to notch it out there, but it has the effect of effectively minimizing the scale of it on the backside by pulling it back that little indentation.
So I just have I think a rhetorical question. This addition is on the Rabbit Run side of the house, correct?
Yes.
So it brings it pretty close.
It is very close, actually. You can see there's the page that shows the plot plan. It shows it's right within the setback, so the little dotted line around the house is the setback, and we're just inside the setback.
So
Go here.
you don't have to move the fence will remain.
Yes, the fence will remain where it is.
Okay.
Right here, so.
Any other questions?
Here's the back of the house.
Any questions from abutters or other members of the public?
Out like this.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve this application as designed.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So before you leave, you have to sign this, which basically says that if you're going to make any changes, you'll let us know. And you've been unanimously approved.
Yeah, come on down.
You may approach the bench.
Yes, you may.
And see if you can knock over everything, because that's what everybody does.
That's a tradition, to knock those over.
It's not much space there. It's very easy to
Better
do.
than most.
I've done it from this side of the table.
So if you just sign here, Constance. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck with it.
Thanks again. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Two. Thank you.
Still having alternates, oh, sorry, you're on the committee, duh. Sorry. John was signing last time, too.
Does he sign if he's
Do
actually?
we have,
No.
I think, John, don't.
Yeah, not, because we have a quorum.
5 is,
Yeah.
your signature is not required.
But you can sign that one.
You could, I guess. I don't know.
Well, the only problem is if we
guess you
have,
could.
the only problem is voting is if we have the possibility of a tie.
Right.
Well, then he wouldn't sign.
Plus, you're going to
'Cause
be
he-
stepping out for one of these.
I'm gonna be
so
stepping up
that'll-
for one, yeah.
That would shorten us, so.
Yes, so John, you'll be voting on one
Yeah.
for sure.
Rick, I want you to know we had a condition last meeting, and I filled in for you. Wrote in a condition.
Oh, you
That's in the minutes.
did? Wow. Thank you.
Yes, so don't go any further.
I know writing them can be, and you feel really under the gun.
Well, I
Just
had,
in the moment.
The next item on the agenda is 23-A038, to install solar panels on the front and rear roofs of 24 Conservation Drive. David Sherlock is the owner, and Sunrun Installation Services is the agent, and I recognize the agent.
It's our friend Steve.
Been here. It's Steve Kelly from Sunrun.
Tell us about it.
We're planning on putting 28 panels, black on black, black frame, black matte finish, on this home at 24 Conservation Drive. There'll be a rectangular array on the front of the house with 18 panels, and on the rear, there'll be 10 more. It's a salt box. It's pretty high up in the front, not a main road, backs up to the golf course.
I'm curious.
Are you done? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry. I'm just curious, I have no issues with this application. But for my own benefit, being that it effectively faces due south, can you explain to me again, I don't care about them there, but putting them on that north side still brings a benefit, and can you explain why?
Because when they punch in the numbers in California or Denver, it comes up. It's all computer generated. I think it depends on the slope of the roof. Actually, if you look on Google Maps, the back slope is black. There's no sun on it at all in that early picture.
There's a big difference too between a Sunrun project or a lease project and a homeowner project, in that Sunrun is a business that owns the solar system. So they're going to eke whatever they can, and getting the solar panels on there for them is not as expensive as it is for your homeowner.
Because I would think that it just, the benefit
They're
wouldn't
squeezing a
outweigh the
drop out
investment.
of it.
Okay.
Trying to maximize the production that the utilities will let us put on the roof, essentially.
And I'm just bringing that up because oftentimes we ask developers with private citizens to move everything to the back roof, and the developer has to say, well, they're going to lose all of their efficiency. For Sunrun, it's a different issue.
Sure.
Interesting to know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? I have a few things to say. This almost qualifies as an exemption. The only item in the exemption list is number 6, roof shingles shall be of dark color to blend with the solar panel array. Well, in this case, the shingles do not blend with the solar panel array. There are two, this is a cul-de-sac. There are 2 houses on Conservation Drive with very conspicuous solar panels. One is number 6, one is the one at the very end of the cul-de-sac. I would like to point out for the record that number 6 was approved by this committee, I believe, in 2015. I really should double-check that.
That's true, I looked it up. That's correct.
Yeah. The only person seated at this table in 2015 may have been John. We're all, it's a totally different committee.
Could have been me.
No, I'm just, for the record, making that clear. And I also would add that although the existence of the other 2 houses, especially the one on 6 with a much steeper pitched roof, and the panels actually do not form a contiguous array. There's a break in the array. So this is not right on the corner, and it's not as conspicuous as number 6. But, as I've said many times, this committee is not compelled to follow precedent of what's been done by previous committees, especially with no one on this committee currently seated that was seated at that time. So, that having been said, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve this application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Do we want to check the letters before
Oh.
we?
Are there, thank you.
You're
Are there abutters or other interested members of the party who wish to address this? All right.
Aye.
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 Just for the record, I didn't bring up the other houses with the panels on the front.
I wasn't accusing you of that or suggesting that. Okay, so,
Oh,
you know the drill.
He probably knows it better than we do.
Okay, Steve, put your John Hancock there, please. Thank you. You're free to go. Well, actually, we'll be back. Okay. Okay.
Next people are on Zoom.
Can you tell? So the two that says Yarmouth comment.
Well, the first one is this guy.
How can you see?
Rick,
Oh, I see in the upper right-hand corner.
Stop having so much fun.
I'm trying to, now I understand. So what are, I'm just curious, as you look at the screen, there's us, and what are the two other black Yarmouth?
him and her.
I think they're probably just always there.
And then the applicant, participants are on the side. I got it.
You know that he's going to step aside for
Yes.
items, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, look who's attending the meeting remotely at the very bottom? Isn't it impressive?
I can't see who it is.
This is Richard Ventura.
Thanks for keeping me in
Don's using my laptop.
Next time I'm gonna
Don's using my laptop.
to the table.
Next item on the agenda is 23 dash, says D002. You're mixing it up on us.
Yeah, demolition, oh, okay.
It's to demolish a single-family dwelling, because of demolition, got it.
I just figured.
Demolish single-family dwelling at 51 Dartmoor Way. Gail and Moji Amini are the owners, and, pardon me?
I think they're on,
Okay, and FL Quinn Construction and Excavation is the agent, and we have,
Moji. Hi,
you're on.
say something,
Can you
Moji.
hear us?
Yes,
Yes.
perfectly.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I apologize for not being there. We live off Cape, and so Gail and Moji Amini are here. And if you have any question, please go ahead.
Do we have questions or comments?
No, I mean, he doesn't even need to describe it. It's a demolition of the entire house, which looks like it has a serious wet problem.
The only thing I would add, and it does look like you have some serious issues there, is there is a certain irony, sadly, reducing one's carbon footprint, as you put it, to demolish an entire structure and put it in a landfill is not terribly carbon footprint friendly, but it also looks like you have some serious issues. I'm curious, how do you intend to mitigate those issues, those below-grade issues with the new house?
We intend to demolish the foundation as well and pour new foundation.
I don't think this foundation was poured properly to begin with, the one that's extant now.
You should have some
If you
kind of-
look at
So
it,
you'll have nothing to do with the new construction?
right.
No, not at this point.
Okay.
so do you have a plan for what you want to put in its place?
We are working, the plans are about 90% done, but we're trying to get the house ready for, hopefully retirement soon, and so we're trying to expedite. And if you folks are kind enough to approve the demolition, it kind of, gives us a better handle on the future design and build.
Just curious, do any of your neighbors have any issues with wet basements?
I can speak to that. I'm not sure if they do or they don't. I know we have had it Of course, depends on the winter. This winter wasn't that bad, but our sump pump is constantly works.
Any other comments or questions from the committee? Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested parties? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And aye. Let's
Can we
hope that
sign
the new
remotely?
house will be in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. It's a very nice neighborhood.
Moji was asking a question. What was it, Moji?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do I sign remotely here?
If you
Yes,
want
please
to.
sign it. Do your Houdini and come up and sign
You
it.
bet. To answer your question quickly, absolutely, we love Cape. We have a long history in Cape with our relatives and families. We're gonna build something that we certainly will be proud to present.
Thanks for that reassurance.
Oh, Rick is ignoring you again.
Rick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Separate those two. Terrible handwriting.
That's a fine signature.
Oh, is there a resident? Could be.
The next item on the agenda is 23-A039 to build a play structure with storage at 125 Wiano Road. Andrew Philbrook is the owner, and Philbrook Construction is the agent. And do we have Andrew present tonight?
Mr. Chairman, if I might interrupt for a moment, I am a direct abutter to Mr. Philbrook, so I must recuse myself.
Very good.
We have Brendan Lowney. Brendan, can you say something?
Yes, I'm actually here for the next one for 154 Center Street. My apologies. I didn't know if you could see me or not. That's all.
Okay. Bear with us. So we're looking for Andrew Philbrook or some representative for this application.
I don't recognize any names.
I don't know who resident is further down there, so.
I'll entertain a motion to table the application until the end of the meeting.
I'll second.
I have a
I'll move.
Oh, what a good idea.
Okay, and a second. All in favor of tabling till the end of the meeting?
Aye.
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 I thought I could look at your pretty faces for a minute.
Okay, then.
The next item on the agenda is 23-A040 to construct a detached garage at 100 Route 6A. William Doherty is the owner, and Northside Design Agents is, Associates is the agent, and who do we have this evening?
William Doherty,
Aye.
the owner.
So, present your application.
It's a garage, and it's 3 bays. It's in keeping with the structure of the house at 100 Main Street, Route 6A. And something I've been wanting to build for a long time, to say the least.
It's something what?
I've been wanting to build for a long time, because I don't have a garage there. But anyways, it's in keeping, and we submitted the material. I've also did this, I think, in 18, but I just at the time couldn't get the right builder. And then last year, I had it, and prices, were so high with lumber and everything like that, so I thought I'd wait. And so now I would like it approved. There's one small issue that I have, that back there, very close to it, not, of course, on it, there's a holly tree that's about 300 years old. It's huge.
Wow.
And I don't want to disturb it because it's so unusual.
Oh, how fantastic.
And so I want to be able to adjust the garage, its footprint, to make sure I'm clear of it.
Mr. Doherty, I let someone out of your property in my car this afternoon around 4:30. Was that you?
What's that?
Someone pulling out of your driveway this
Probably,
morning. I
yeah.
paused and let you out. I don't know if that was
Oh,
you
that was you.
at 4:30. Mr. Doherty, are you finished? I don't want to.
Yes, I am.
I want to say first, so your house, I'll say it because you're too modest to, your house is a star on the street,
well,
right?
thank you.
You know, I drive by your house every day, twice a day, during the week and other times, and your French flag
Yeah,
flying.
Dutch flag.
Dutch flag.
Yeah. Well, the stripes go in a different way.
As a person of the world.
Yeah.
Difficulty when France has wars
Well,
with
thank
the
you for
Dutch,
covering
so-
for me. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful home. And it really is a star of this road. I mean, everyone that drives by, it's a perfect example of what happens when a smaller house gets added onto in a way that's incredibly sympathetic and in scale with the rest of the house. Those shed dormers that people might think, you know, oh dear, those would be dreadful to put those on a house. They work beautifully. It all works seamlessly. The veranda is great. And I think the design is quite nice. I have one issue with it, though.
Sure.
It seems to me tremendously overscaled. And you have 11 feet to the underside of the joists on the lower level. And then, you know, looking up a three-car garage, I know you have a stair going up to it. You know, the dimensions, it's say, you know, I have AutoCAD, as you can imagine, being an architect, so I, you know, drew a generous three-car garage. And this, which is about 750 square feet, that's a 34-foot long by 22-foot deep building. And yours is 44 by 28. It's 65% larger than a three-car garage. And, you know, let's add a few feet for the stair going up. And I think it's a handsome design. I appreciate even the rendering provided of the elevation. I think it's a good-looking building. It just, to me, is needlessly large, and I'm curious why it's
Well,
so large.
I have a love for cars. And, I always had, and I can't help myself.
Are you putting a lift in?
No, there's no lift. I just want good space around the type of cars I have.
What kind do you have, if we may ask?
Well, I have about 5 cars. I have a house in Florida also, but I have a Porsche, and then sometimes I get different Mercedes and things like that. And
Well, I have a Model A Ford. I understand the love of a car.
Right, so,
And especially if you have those things and you have no
Yeah.
garage,
Yeah.
that's, would you be averse to lowering it a little bit? Just, you know, do you need quite 11 feet to the underside of the joists?
well, I'm afraid like too much of a too close to the roofs of some of the vehicles, or even a pickup sometimes, it can have a little difficulty. So that's the only thing. I could talk to the architect about it and see what,
What does it scale to the rest of your house? I know you've got that little section there, but
Yeah.
relative to your house, what is the scale of the three-car garage?
yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
at
how
this point.
low is it? 6 feet lower than the rest of the house, or?
No, I didn't think it's quite that much. If you took your car and you just went up about, you know, 1.5 feet or something like that, so,
Could it be seen from from,
It can be.
yeah.
I'm not sure of the footing.
Well, it all depends how it is. So if I put it one way that's close to the tree that directly goes, or if I turn it facing out towards Route 6A, I mean, either way, but it still would be the style of the house. It's always had, in past times, a carriage house out there somewhere.
Right.
And the house was 1708, so
Your
make
house
sure, and
is
I'm
on-
very sensitive to making sure that it goes along with, you know, with what the structure is.
Your house was owned by a previous chairman of this board, at one point.
At one point, yeah. So, I'm an avid collector of antiques, of, American antiques and European antiques. It's been in my family a long time. So I'm very interested in keeping that house the way it should be. And a lot of history is there too, since 1708.
So, I'm sorry, Johnny.
If we weren't calling it a garage, we'd call it a barn.
Well, you could,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's call it a barn, and it's a very small barn.
Mr. Doherty, I just have, we talked today about this building, and it's so close to the tree. So I noticed you've got a door to the right of the three doors on your drawing here. I don't know how, that's probably 4 feet right there.
Right.
But on your other drawing, on the, where is it? Must be on this one. It shows on this drawing that looks like you've got a door on the side as well, that goes into that little building, that little connecting building?
It was just a
I'm
door.
just saying,
I know.
if that's the door you used, then you could move that whole wall in 4
Whole
feet.
wall in 4
And you'd
feet,
have the door on the side rather than the front.
Right.
And that would pull it away from that tree that
Would,
you're
yeah.
concerned about.
Yeah.
So that's just a
One
thought.
way, yeah, sure.
So, Mr. Doherty, I'm just looking at that site plan. Is there indeed, the site plan shows, or was it an earlier iteration?
Right.
Is there indeed a garage door on the side of the building as well?
It shows it right
It's the
there.
back.
Here.
Isn't the
Over
back?
here, that looks like
It's
a
the
window,
back.
doesn't it?
No, that
There's
looks
one
like a
side
garage.
door, that's all, yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
On your site plan, it looks like there's that overhead dash
Little overhead.
of a garage on the gable end,
Yeah.
a garage door. Is there one on the gable end?
I think originally it was, but then it was changed.
So you just show it here
So this is
as
just-
windows.
But the same building was approved, I know time has gone by since 18. And my only issue is that I'm worried more about the tree than anything else, because it's such a beautiful tree. It's,
So could you be more specific about how the tree is going to affect the location of the
well, it just seems
proposed
to be
garage?
close to the building. That's right to the side of the building. It would be close.
Which side of the building is the
Be
tree?
to the left side of the.
So this is going to move this is going to move the garage closer to your Vesper Lane
existing
abutter?
tree. Yeah, the
Okay,
existing tree.
so
yeah.
that will probably make it a little more visible from 6A? It's not hidden by your house, in other words?
Yeah,
Okay, and just to be clear about the orientation of the garage, the gable end faces 6A,
yes,
correct?
Yeah,
So that mitigates the mass of the structure visually,
yeah.
which I think is a plus. I have just one, following up on Ms. Morrison's observation about the door. And since it's not really, that facade isn't really going to be visible from 6A, it's just something that I wonder if you might consider. It would seem to me that from a design perspective, to eliminate that door and put it on the side
Yeah.
would not only
All right.
shrink the mass, but it would also create a more symmetrical arrangement of doors
And gables.
and gables
Right,
above,
Okay.
Yeah.
which I think would be nice for you. It's not going to affect our decision
I
because
agree. Yeah,
it's not something that can be seen from 6A.
fine. Yeah.
But if I were, and I'm not designing your garage for you, but if I were, I like symmetry, and I
Right.
think symmetry
I
is.
understand.
Yeah, okay.
I would agree with that.
Any other,
Just one, and this is just something that somebody said one time, and that the root system of a tree measures the width of the leaves and the branches. So you
yeah.
could tell sort of where the end of the root system would
yeah,
be by
yeah.
the width,
The
the
drip
breadth of
line.
the,
That's only in
tree.
some
Canopy,
species.
canopy.
That's
Oh, for
not,
God's sakes, John.
no, well, that's my job.
Anyway, that's just an observation, and I think absolutely if you cut off that door and move those windows over so they're right over the doors of the garage, I think it will look awesome.
All right.
So I do have one question. In the drawings, it shows the windows being 6/1. I'm curious what the configuration of the windows in your house are.
I'll
I
tell you
didn't
right
take
now.
note of that.
I think it's about the same. No, what am I talking about?
6 over 6, or are they?
6 over 6, yes.
So I'm wondering if we should have the windows in the garage match the house. Same configuration. Would that
Okay.
be something you could do?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, do we feel any of these comments that have been made by the committee need to be codified as amendments to the application?
I think we should.
If you're amenable to our suggestions?
Yeah, the
gonna
windows,
do
the
this to me?
door.
Yeah,
I am.
the windows in the door.
But before I do that to you, are there any more questions or comments from the committee? And are there any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the party?
I do have one additional question, not really relevant to the decision, but I'm just curious what you're going to use the second floor for.
It was just a space that for the future, if I needed for storage or something like that. Yeah, at this point.
So, so you're amenable to our suggestions regarding
Yes.
the array of doors in symmetry with the gables above,
Yeah.
moving that door around to the side? Are there any other amendments that we're proposing?
Windows, 6 over 6
Windows
windows.
6 over 6 windows?
Okay,
Yeah.
let me get a form from
You
Lisa.
should approve it exactly as it is.
Filling it out, I think. I could have gotten it. Jeez. Bob's doing everything.
You're part of it anyway. I'm going to find an excuse to go back there. Love that.
So just to be clear, we are not changing the length, the dimension of the building. We're simply going to allow his architect to recenter the doors and windows.
No, they're going to
We're
change the
gonna,
length.
we're gonna change the length.
They're going to take the
Change
door
the
off.
length?
That'll
How
it'll be
much are
here.
we removing? The door is 3 feet wide.
Plus the sides, it'd be about
4
5
feet?
feet.
Yeah, 4 feet.
Okay, so
This right here.
yes, so it's 40,
Yeah. so
Well,
this
maybe
thing.
you can just, instead of trying to do measurements, you can say, you know, in the space that is, was created to accommodate the door will be struck without getting into measurements. Because I don't know that we have the
well, it's a
measurements.
3-foot door, and there's certainly a foot. And I think 4 feet is,
Right.
let's say 3. 3 feet, it's the door itself. It'll allow him to space out the doors a little more and give Mr. Doherty a little more room along the sides of his cars. How's that?
And so that the gables are centered over the doors.
And that makes it 45 feet. All right,
More or less.
yes. This will take me a moment, sir.
Yes,
Um,
okay. What kinds of antiques do you collect?
I collect a mixture of porcelains, mice and so on, very old mice and things like that, Asian
That's a foot, that's,
porcelains, antique American furniture.
And then he can
and,
Want to sell anything? I'm a dealer.
It's never in my heart to sell anything.
I know, they all say the same
He
thing,
wants to buy something.
but I keep trying.
Will likely buy something from you.
Okay, well, it works both ways, so.
So,
it's over
right
here.
here.
Yeah,
Suppose we could do.
That's
no
what he
matter
wants
what,
to do,
you're
bring
gonna
it
be-
this way.
Make a motion?
Hard to kill.
Yeah, we could do that. Okay, do I hear a motion for this application?
Sure. I make a motion to approve,
One's so big.
what was it?
And it's a live.
23-A040, as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So while Mr. Ventrone is writing his opus, I need you to come up and sign this, and what it says is, if you're going to make any changes, to please let us know. And good luck with your project.
it's right there, sir.
Thank you.
too.
I believe, yes.
Yeah, don't go.
Okay, one more to sign here.
Yeah.
Oops, that's the wrong one. Oh, there's a different,
Oh. Yeah,
next one.
I think we got the next one.
Oh, did I do the wrong one?
Yeah, that's the next one.
Good catch, Cindy.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so we're gonna switch these. How
You
does
just
this
put it
this is-
aside.
Let's see. Okay, here we go. We're gonna do this again. The chairman messed up. Imagine that. Okay, here we go.
That looks better.
With luck, the next one will get approved and we won't have to.
All right, I shall read this. My firstborn child, no. Revise the designs to remove the 3-foot door on the west front elevation and reduce the building length from 48 to 45 feet. Door will be moved to the south elevation. Garage doors and dormers shall be relocated to create a symmetrical arrangement on the west front elevation. The windows shall change from 6/1 to 6/6 configuration. So you're losing exactly 3 feet. It'll actually give you more. Once he spreads it out, or she, it will give a little more in between your cars. So it's just the door itself. If you could.
No, it's the whole segment of the house.
Yes, but it's 45, it's 48, it goes 45.
I had you
Yes.
sign the
Yeah,
wrong
okay,
one, so
okay.
you're gonna
All
have to
right.
sign this again.
But I didn't cut off any more, it's just the door width itself, the 36-inch door. Right there, sir. Beautiful ring.
I have a map that shows that Yarmouthport was part of New Holland
Oh,
Ah,
in
hence the flag.
1652.
oh.
Then the English had a battle and lost it.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty, for helping,
Have a good
working
night.
with us.
Good education, too.
Enjoy your cars.
We should look into rewriting our bylaws so we kind of, like we've got reservations at the restaurant and we get to go to the pool. We should have asked to be able to go out in his cars for rides.
It would be worth the price of admission to walk through his house, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I'm sure it.
Unbelievable.
Oh, you've been in the house?
I was in today.
Oh,
You went inside his
invited me
house?
right
Invited you in?
He showed me everything, you wouldn't believe this house.
Oh, I bet it's spectacular.
This one over here needs to go in.
this one
Bob
over.
might have a
Strange
mild
everybody over
stroke,
there.
so we don't want to do anything that would endanger his health. No, I'm sure it would be amazing.
trying
So
to-
antiques, it's
Oh my
amazing.
God, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
Hopefully,
Yeah, if I
we're
see
back on
people
track.
around, I always talk to them, and many people invite me into their homes.
Really? So you'd like get out of your car and walk around?
Yep, he took me on a tour.
Wow.
You wouldn't believe the stuff of this guy's
So-
house. Is he on the record still? We're talking ex parte.
Yes.
You're being recorded, as a matter of fact.
It's not the
Okay.
first time.
You can push that audio away.
Let's see.
It's so easy to look at the pic, match it from what it looks like.
It can get very easily confusing.
What we're up to now,
Yeah, 154, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Steve's back.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is 23-A041 to replace a cottage destroyed by fire at 154 Center Street, Unit 4. David Holt is the owner, and Lewis and Weldon Custom Cabinetry LLC is the agent. And do we have David or his agent present this evening?
Is Brendan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, good evening. My name is Brendan Lowney from Lewis and Welding, and we are representing David Holt. His property is 154 Center Street, Unit 4. And this is a building that caught on fire. You may have saw it in the news or on the Cape Cod Times. It was a couple of months back. The building, unfortunately, is a total loss. It's not a big building. It's roughly 334 square feet. And what we're looking to do is to replace pretty much in kind and to match the existing buildings as well. So some of the materials we're choosing, architectural asphalt roofs. The siding is going to be cedar double dipped, shingles. Some materials that we're introducing and would like your approval as well is PVC trim that will be painted on the outside, and fiberglass doors. One is a 15 light and one has a little bit more detail. The front door, those are different than what are in the drawings. So please take a look at the attached doors that are selected. And
Both
there's a
doors are
pergola that-
different? Excuse me, Brendan, both doors are different?
Yes, both doors are different, but I have spec sheets on both of them, so you can see the detail on both of them. The original drawings were just just to get us started in this process. And the building is a full demo. We're going to try and keep the slab foundation. That's the only thing that's in question. Because it's a non-conforming lot, we're going to have to go probably in front of ZBA anyways, but we'd like to get the historic approval, and there's a possibility of squaring off the back, which would be adding an additional 88 square feet to the building. And if you were to look at the best plan to see that on, if you were to look on not the septic plan, but the site plan itself, the building is behind the main building, so you really can't see it from Center Street unless you really have a good angle on it. But the rear of the building is about 10 feet from the property line, so we're going to draw that line straight and just square the building off. And just get a little bit more space out of this cute little cottage.
So my
And if you have any
question
questions?
is, yeah, if we're replacing it, shouldn't we have a demolition application?
This is a demolition application.
Doesn't say that.
It's actually a combination application, and generally speaking, we have required that be split into two applications. I don't know that we have to be hard and fast about that,
I wouldn't think,
but that's been,
It's pretty much
that's been the
destroyed.
traditional process.
it burnt, so I would,
Okay, so we're gonna let it slide.
Okay,
I'm
so-
curious, what was the cause of the fire?
That's a great question. I don't have that answer, and this is actually the brother-in-law of the owner of Lewis and Weldon. I didn't get I never asked that question. My apologies. I don't know what the cause originally was, but
I'll speak to this. I think, I know you're bound by the fact that it's a non-conforming lot and you have to stick with the footprint, but to me, it's very encouraging to see a little cottage, a small little building. When everyone wants to build large things, that the owner, I'm sure it was very sad to lose their little building, but that they're willing to, being they want this, have a small, charming little cottage, and they're willing to invest the money to rebuild it, rather than maybe look elsewhere or try to go to zoning and make something larger and expand it. And these types of little buildings were all over Cape Cod at one time, and most of them didn't survive, and people expanded. So I think it should be encouraged to, and I think the little arbor trellis, I think everything about it is kind of sweet.
I'm not sure the trellis is part of the new plan, though.
It says it,
Okay.
patio with arbor trellis over.
yep.
I think that was very well said, and I agree with it. It's a sweet little cottage, and the changes are improvements, and they're minor. Are there any other comments or questions from the committee about this application? Any comments or questions from abutters or other interested members of the party, public? Do I have hear a motion?
May I move to approve this charming little cottage application.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need to amend it to include the demolition? No, okay.
To
Aye.
do what?
Include the demolition. I don't think we need, it's already been demolished by
Yeah, it's-
fire.
Yeah, it's practically gone, so. So, aye,
Aye, aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Missing one?
Okay, so I guess we'll go back to table. Gordon, Clark, Pat, Billy.
So the last item on the agenda,
Go back to the one we tabled.
You have to untable it?
yes, we have to, yeah. The last item on the agenda is 23-A35. It was tabled from the previous meeting, so we need to untable the application.
I move to untable application number 23-A, A035.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
Okay, we do
That's
that
after
next.
this. All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Richard?
Aye.
And I. Okay. So, this is to install 11 solar panels on the rear roof of 39 Wild Rose Terrace. Ellen Latour is the owner, and Sunrun Installation Services is the agent. And welcome back.
Steve Kelly from Sunrun.
A couple of times.
So we're proposing to put 11 black-on-black panels on the rear of the home. It was on the front, and it was requested that we could push it to the back, which we have been able to do. So we have 11 on the rear. I do have a concern that was brought to my attention that it is not a continuous plane on the rear of the home, so 2 of the panels may have to be pushed, not continuous, pushed to the other roof, but you still should not see them from the front.
So there's a little kick on the roof?
There's a rake board that goes down, so the different span.
Okay,
Any questions or comments from the committee?
thank you.
That's right, I agree. Appreciate the cooperation from the owner and from you. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have
Aye.
and I have a question. Lisa, this is not on my agenda, and I didn't have it in my packet, and I'm just wondering, which is fine. I'm just wondering, is that because I wasn't here for that meeting?
No, she sent out a second revised agenda. Maybe you didn't see that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see that one. All right, so, but I can vote on this.
Yes, you may.
Aye.
All right, good, congratulations.
Thank you.
I wondered why we were sticking around.
Say hello to Karen for me.
Here you go, Steve.
Speak to the owner of the garage and suggest that he drop it down based on my experiences. Took it to
11 feet.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
Thank you. See you soon, I hope.
See you later.
See you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So this must be the guy for the one we tabled.
He's going to announce you, so sit tight. Can I untable it?
As soon as
Okay.
we get this signed. I make mistakes when I get rushed.
And I shouldn't do it to you. There's no reason.
And, Mr. Chairman, before the next motion, as I said but previously, I must recuse myself for this application as being a direct abutter.
All right, so we need to untable 23-A039
I
to
move
build a play structure with storage at 125 Riano Road.
I move to untable 23-A039.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
I apologize for earlier. I was on Zoom, but I didn't realize I could call in, so.
And,
Drove down here.
and you are?
Andrew Philbrook.
Okay. Tell us about your application, Andrew.
It is a play structure that was built in 2020. It was gonna be like a tree house with a swing, slide, and I was gonna do some storage underneath.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. We've had some letters submitted by abutters and members of the public, and I'd like to read them into the record. The first one is addressed dated April 18th of this year. It's addressed to me and members of the Historic Committee. We are writing to express our opposition to application 23-A039 for 125 Wiano Road. We urge the committee to deny this application as the intent of the structure has been misrepresented by the applicant and is not aligned with the intent of the Old Kings Highway Regional Historic District Act. Based on the drawings and descriptions submitted with this application, we do not believe this structure is intended to be used as a, quote, play structure for kids, unquote. Rather, we believe this structure is intended for all-terrain vehicles, storage, and adult recreation use. The plans make this rather clear with a storage area with double doors and a ramp for vehicle access, as well as a second-story deck. As owners of an abutting property, we have witnessed our neighbor, Mr. Philbrook, routinely ride ATVs illegally under the property, under the power lines behind our homes. This has happened with such frequency that the Google Maps satellite image of this property shows the ATV tracks that have been carved into the land. And there's a link. This ATV use has been a nuisance that has resulted in Department of Natural Resource officers being called to the property on multiple occasions. Given this background, it becomes clear why this is not a play structure, but rather an observation deck for watching ATV riding with vehicle storage on the ground floor. This is in no way a representation of the heritage of Cape Cod. The framework of this structure was started without a permit a few years back, and it has sat as an eyesore through all this time. Not only should this permit be denied, but this structure should be dismantled immediately. Thank you for consideration of our objection. Sincerely, Joseph and Jill Brown. Second letter. Members of Old Kings Highway. Mr. Philbrook is a neighbor of mine on Wiano Road. I'm almost an abutter and is requesting a two-story shed playhouse. Being a good neighbor is part of living in a neighborhood. Mr. Philbrook had a lovely dog that used to get out, and I gladly brought her back home, even made her a winter sweater. And when Joe Connors fell, it was Mr. Philbrook, an associate, that helped me return him inside his home. But now we have all observed this ugly structure for the past few years and heard all the noise from his ATVs. He tunes them up during the week and has races along the N-Star right-of-way on weekends. Does Mr. Philbrook know that neighbors work at home on weekdays? Does he know that his almost blind 98-year-old neighbor watches old movies during the day? Does he know that neighbors that work hard all week, looking forward to enjoying their weekends, have to stay inside because of the noise of the ATVs. If he held bicycle races or push-pedal manual go-karts, he would not be affecting the quality of life for the neighbors, but the noise produced from the ATVs is certainly not welcome. And now he's requesting a two-story structure with a deck to observe the ATV races. I would suggest that only a one-story structure be approved so that it can finally be completed. Respectfully submitted, Christine Marzigliano. And the third letter, dated April 21st of this year, addressed to me, Old Kings Highway Historic District Committee. Dear Mr. Wilkins, I am writing to object to the above referenced application for a play structure with storage on the following grounds. One, the structure is large and of a scale that is not fitting with the character of the neighborhood or the larger historic district. Two, the design is not in keeping with the aesthetic tradition of Barnstable County as set forth in the Old Kings Highway Regional Historic District Act. Three, the applicant partially constructed, completely framed and sheathed the building several years ago without filing for either a COA or a building permit and was issued a cease and desist order. My husband and I moved into our home on February 21st, 2022. When we first viewed the property in December 2021, we immediately noticed Mr. Philbrook's large derelict shed. Due to the nature of our properties, our house faces the side of Mr. Philbrook's home, which effectively places his shed within view from our front door. When deciding to make an offer on our home, we discussed the shed as being a negative impact on the property. It is jarring. We discussed the shed as being a negative impact. Mr. Philbrook has at least two other accessory buildings constructed on his property. The Old Kings Highway Regional Historic District Act defines a building as, quote, a combination of structural materials having a roof, framing a shelter for persons, animals, or property. As shown in the attached photographs, there are several tent-like buildings on the property. We do not begrudge Mr. Philbrook his desire to have a shed or a playhouse, and he is certainly entitled to a well-designed one-story building that meets Old Kings Highway guidelines. He takes great care of his landscaping and clearly enjoys maintaining his property. We wish him well and sincerely regret that we are with odds with him on this matter. However, the building is not appropriate for the Old Kings Highway District, and the investment he made in this building to date could have easily been avoided had he respected and followed the required town procedures. We ask the committee to deny this application and require Mr. Philbrook to revise the existing standing building to a one-story structure and resubmit for approval. Respectfully, Richard A. Ventrone, Jr. And it's accompanied by drawings, scale drawings, plans, and photographs. So, it would seem that you have a public relations problem. How do you want to deal with it?
We were planning to redesign it as a shed. I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Knowing that we had to initiate a process, to say the least.
Okay.
So that was our plan.
So, you might want to consider having us table the application for a redesign. Why don't we just do that?
Okay.
Okay.
I move that we.
Excuse me, just, are you redesigning the existing structure?
Yes.
Are you gonna take that down and put something else up?
No, I'd probably still put a shed in that location.
Okay, but there's something there already, right?
Correct.
Is that gonna
yes.
go?
A portion of it is, I would say, because I'm going to use some of it as a shed. It's still a viable location.
So you'll redesign it and make it appropriate?
A shed,
Okay.
correct. Yes.
But, can I ask one question here? I'm looking at this plan, first floor, and that's 10 by 8, right?
I think so, correct.
Yeah.
I'm
okay,
sorry, I had all that on my computer, so yes.
Okay. And that's the shed that you're planning on building, like this?
I think that's Richard's
See,
stuff.
we've got
That may not be-
competing things here.
Yeah, that's not,
something
that's not from.
That's not part.
That's not
No,
part
I
of
don't
the
have, I
application,
don't have
I
a new
understand.
design.
but
I will have a new design.
That's Richard's.
That's Richard's.
Yeah.
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
First, Andrew, I want to say, I hate the last thing I want to do is be at odds with the neighbor, truly. What they're referring to there is I made a scale massing model of Andrew's shed, and actually a shed that Don and I were planning. We're not going to do it this year. We haven't applied, because last fall, we went to get a shed design at Walpole, that kind of a place. And I modeled that shed just to show, by comparison, a one-story shed versus Andrew's shed. But I want to point out, the shed I modeled is an 8x14 shed. His footprint is 8x10. So the shed that you're seeing, the red one, when I overlay them, is 40% larger than the shed that is currently there in footprint form. So my point in showing that really was to show an 8x14 shed is a good-sized shed, 40% more square footage and a lot less mass. And that's what I wanted to show. So, I mean, I think an 8x14 shed is a good-sized shed. So
So you're saying he'll get bigger area and it still be one story as a shed?
yes, and what I'm also saying is that he intended, I think, to have a two-story shed. I'm not suggesting or requesting that he be confined to an 8x10 footprint. If he wants a bigger shed that's one story, he should, in my opinion, be entitled to a well-designed, bigger shed that's
150
one
square
story.
feet.
My comment.
No, he can have 150 square feet.
Correct. If you want.
That's acceptable.
You're entitled to design whatever you want to design.
Understood. No,
But,
absolutely, I understand.
but Mr. Ventrone is an architect, and it's a nice shed. You might want to take a look at his drawing, and see if you like it well enough to say, yeah, that's great, this is what I'll do, or do something of your own.
Understood.
Okay, any other
He
comments?
hangs out in your neighborhood.
You're right. Any other comments from either the committee or abutters or other interested members of the public? Do I hear a motion to table this application?
I move that we table item 23-A039, Mr. Philbrook's shed.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. And thank you for being so accommodating.
Thank you for waiting, I appreciate it.
Okay.
So just for the record, do you have a picture of the drawings?
No, I don't.
Would you
Oh, no,
like them?
Of the,
Of the-
of Richard's, no, Richard, I appreciate it, thank you very much. No,
So,
I'm also,
okay,
I appreciate
so-
it, no, thank you.
I just didn't want you to leave if you didn't.
No, no,
So,
it's
all right.
All right.
All right.
All right, you have a good night.
Yes. Okay.
So, I just noticed on one hand, there's the American flag
We're done.
backwards on the back of this.
Are we going to be reviewing those?
All right, so,
I don't remember what.
do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of April 10th?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I abstain.
Aye. Now, we have a continuing item on the agenda as requested by at least two members of this committee, specifically John and also Richard too, that we talk about the Old Kings Highway violations process and good preservations procedures. This is an ongoing item that's going to remain on the agenda for the foreseeable future, whether we want to talk about it tonight, or whether we want to,
We had a violation tonight.
well, do we wish to talk about it tonight, is my question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But, so what could we do to force him to remove the second floor?
Which are we talking about? I may have missed this.
The,
ATV shed?
yeah, the last guy. He's in violation right now.
Correct.
But it's several years violation, is that?
That doesn't make any difference. We're aware of it now. I wasn't aware of it previously.
You don't have faith that he's going to voluntarily do this?
He's gonna do the whole thing over, so.
Okay, so,
You think we were getting lip service?
think what?
I don't know. I asked if I'm sort of, I guess, of the opinion that he's going to do this
I
voluntarily.
agree.
Oh,
I agree with
Mr.
that.
I'm not
Ventrone.
disagreeing, but if in fact he doesn't,
Then he's in further violation.
Come to it.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
So,
that's like
So
arresting
let's
somebody for
table
what he
that.
hasn't done.
all right.
There's a fellow at the, here.
Butter here. If I could speak to that as an abutter. This has been, so this is something, again, I'm speaking not as the vice chair, but as an abutter here. This is one ugly thing. And so this was, before we bought this house, it was, he had a cease and desist on it. And that's where it ended, because he's just started building it. I wasn't here, but he started building this house. A neighbor complained, building this playhouse, a neighbor complained, and a cease and desist order was issued against it. And it has just stood there ever since. Now, when we were looking at our house, and at first, if you'll just indulge me, please, committee, I understand you're all very nice people, so if you'll just indulge me. I thought, oh gosh, should I buy a house next to a person who like starts a project and doesn't finish it and allows it to rot on their property? And we did anyway, and then we found out, oh, he didn't finish it because he was told to stop working on it. So then that becomes another problem. No, now what? He's told to stop working on it, and the building official doesn't make him take it down, and it just sits there rotting on the property. So as a neighbor, as an abutter, my feeling about it is that that thing should come down. Now, if he wants to revise it, and he wants to expand it after getting an approval from the committee, that's great, and I think that's perfectly fine. It is 6 feet from the property line, but I do believe, again, speaking as a citizen and not as a member of the committee, that just telling someone to stop work on something, when you have violations like this, some action has to be taken. Otherwise, you have what I have, a rotting building. So, for example, should he decide, and I don't know what he's going to decide, the hell with it, for the rest of the year, I'm just tabling that one because I got other things I'm going to work on. This building will sit there. Again, just sit there as it has for 2 years, 3 years. So I would ask this committee, if this application doesn't come back before you with a revised design that you find acceptable, that this should be referred to the building official and he should be forced to remove it rather than allow it to sit there, continuing to be derelict. The reality is none of that sheathing is usable anymore. Perhaps the framing is, but I suspect it's simply going to be tabled by my neighbor, and it's just going to say, okay, fine, let it sit there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fair to me as a neighbor. So action should be taken. I don't know what, I truly don't know what the committee power is to do it, but action should be taken to either revise this and rebuild it. And again, if he wants to build it with a larger footprint, I would fully embrace it as a neighbor, or remove it, but it shouldn't be allowed to continue to sit there. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, we were given years ago a form that we were told the board couldn't fill in for a complaint. But there was a form out there that I'm not sure who it generated, who generated it, whether it was the building department or not. But a citizen could fill out a complaint form against what was going on, and that would be submitted to the building department.
So the complaint was acted upon,
was a
a cease and desist order came out.
And he didn't do anything.
No, he ceased and desisted. So my question is, once you have a cease and desist order, can it go any further than that? You can cease and desist, and can anybody tell you, no, that's not all, we need you to knock it down?
Remove it.
So he spoke tonight in good faith, it seemed to me, to redo this whole thing, to take off the second floor, make the first floor a bigger thing, as you suggested. He seemed to like that idea. I think anybody who comes and sits before a committee that has 3 letters telling him how much they don't approve of what he's doing, I think if he says, yes, I'm going to do that, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, starting from the beginning, what should have happened is that an an application for appropriateness should have been submitted, and we should have
Right.
seen this application before any construction started. That was the first thing that went wrong. But given the fact that that happened, and in the wake of the 3 letters that were read into the record tonight, I am optimistic that he will follow through. One of the reasons that I'm optimistic is that his house is quite nice and seems to be well-maintained. So I hope that he's not of a mind to construct something ugly. Obviously, this structure that's there is unfinished because he was compelled not to finish it. But presumably, had he finished it, it would have
And in alignment.
cosmetically, although way too tall, looked a lot better than it does now. So I think we should, on this particular application, we should wait and see what happens.
Realistically, what's your timeframe? Next year, or?
Um,
No, see, we're stuck here
Yeah,
on this.
I don't think we're entirely stuck. Let's, I mean, a time frame. Okay, I think we could sort of agree to what a reasonable
We
time
didn't
frame would
give-
be.
We didn't give him a timeframe, and
We did not.
he's
Do we
left.
have the authority to give people a time
I
frame to
don't
build
know
something?
that, that's why we need to talk to the building department.
That's whole part of, that's a whole, I think that is a question that's included in this entire discussion of violations and how they're handled.
Right,
Time frame is a big part of it.
I agree.
I mean, I think with the, and I'm not a lawyer, but I think with the cease and desist order, I don't think that's the end of the line. I mean, stop what you're doing, that doesn't mean it's the end of discussion. There should have been follow-up steps, I would think, by someone. I don't know who's the appropriate
Building
committee to take the
department. If
follow-up.
the building department issues the cease and desist,
But
Is there
then,
a time frame after that to do
yeah,
something?
that something has to happen.
I thought it was 30 days, I may be wrong.
Was he,
Wasn't told to take it down.
was he sent a violation letter? Which is separate from a cease and desist. That comes from us.
Doubt it.
So that's
Was
an
the
issue,
board-
that
was this board aware of it?
we could send if it stays intact and he does not come back with a new application, I think we could send a violation letter.
Could ask the building department, is there a time frame after a cease and desist, which has not been enforced? And if there is, we can wait that time frame and then send something else.
I think I'd ask council about that.
I would ask Mr. Wilson.
Yeah,
I think
I would.
there may be something very,
Okay, well, would you like me to handle that then?
yeah.
That'd be good.
All right, I'll deal with that tomorrow. Well,
The other thing, I've seen,
sit here in this seat, so
You do.
I guess,
You're the
and
big
my
boy
name's
seat.
out there, and I suppose I should do that.
as far as the thing standing for 3 years, I know when people, in the absence of a further procedure after cease and desist, people who receive cease and desist orders are not happy. And then they say,
right.
screw it.
I know.
So that, and then I'll just let it sit there. But he came tonight, he wants to do something, let's see what happens. And in the meantime, we find out if there's a time frame, and we'll see what happens. Then we can act on it.
Okay, you'll see what happens.
Yeah, see if you get a time frame after it's cease and desist. I'm sure it's, I'm sure it's online. I could look it up.
What is?
You could, you're an attorney.
Time
could.
frame. But I think it's a good conversation to have.
Oh, I think it's very important.
Yeah.
He certainly didn't come in with a chip on his shoulder,
No.
No.
so.
I'm surprised he showed up at all.
He said he was
I
online.
didn't expect him to show up. Oh, he stayed, yeah.
And he didn't know how to work it.
All right, have we beat that horse to a bloody pulp yet?
We've panned everything but gold.
Well,
Okay.
the only thing we still haven't finished talking about, and we probably never will, is what can we, and John's now here, what can we do about,
Enforcement.
well, no, I was going to say demolition by neglect.
Oh.
Which is why we've got this on the agenda in the first place.
That's something that should be passed by the town.
Are you all done talking about?
Yes.
So, Richard,
So, John, I shouldn't take over.
No, that's,
You feel the having something on the town's bylaws that would,
I think that's what you have to do.
yeah, that's what
You
Rick
have to-
thinks
Maybe
too.
we should contact the selectmen about this, but see, the selectmen aren't really our bosses. Our bosses are in Boston. We have, the town puts up with us begrudgingly. And I think if we don't get answers, then we speak to the Secretary of State's office. I've gotten a lot of information from those very helpful people. The trouble is a regime change in the city, so a lot of things have fallen by the wayside with a new Attorney General, for instance. Things like the solar panels, as a matter of fact, that's just got kicked under the table for now. I'm told that it will be addressed in the near future, but no one has been indicted, nothing. The money was stolen and,
Yeah, and the
The
guy
solar-
transferred money
Solar Wolf
overseas.
thing?
yes,
Oh, that's an active case.
it is, but
Yeah.
not right
But
now.
nobody's
It's
being
no
compensated.
one's working on it.
All right, well, let's,
Yeah, they are.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, are you going to read into the record the letter we received from the abutting neighbor on the Crawford barn?
Do you have it?
We,
The barn that.
I'm looking for it now. We just had it.
We received that from Lisa late this afternoon.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And it's sort of, just to maintain that metaphor, like closing the barn doors after the horses are out, is very much moot at this point. It seems
It's
to
completely
me.
collapsed now.
But I think it is pertinent to this demolition by neglect conversation. And
you-
I can't, Lisa, I mean, you handed that to me. Now, where did that?
I thought you handed it
go?
to me, too.
Did everybody get it?
Do you have another copy of it?
I can get one.
Would you?
Why don't we discuss that next time, I think? It's not, from a practical point of view, it's a moot issue.
Well,
The barn's gone. So it's an object lesson for the future, for sure, and the letter, Donald Bourne's letter should be read into the records. I don't have it in front of me. We didn't get it, Lisa didn't get it until today.
Today.
So-
Put it on for the next meeting.
so if we could speak to greater preservation issues, I think, so we've lost this very important barn, which is tragic.
Yes.
And will never be rebuilt ever again in the history of this town will a barn like that be built. But I want to speak to greater things in issues that I have, honestly, with our law, with the limitations of it, and what I think we need to do, and we have the power to do, and we have been told as much by our attorney, although he doesn't agree with me on this, I will put it out there. We need to adopt some type of preservation guidelines. I suggest that the Secretary of the Interior's standards for historic rehabilitation, which are used nationwide as Mr. Wilson, the lawyer, says, the gold standard, those are his words, for what preservation is. And here is, if you'll indulge me to speak on it, because I'm very troubled. So we have, I'm not going to mention a particular property, but I think you all know the one I'm talking about, that came before this committee before I was on it, which was a somewhat derelict building that has been renovated, but there effectively is nothing left of the original building. A carriage house was demolished, the design has been altered. There is nothing left of that building. It's very nice looking as a new building.
I don't agree.
I don't agree either.
Well, I'll put it this way. It certainly beats most of the shoeboxes that come before us. I think we can all agree with that. So on that front, it's 120% better than the sidewall windowless shoeboxes that come before this committee for new construction. And isn't that great? But it is no longer a historic structure. So what's the problem? Well, we're supposed to be only involved with things that face Route 6A and what they look like. So if you'll allow me to just, again, please, because I do think this is very important, and I think it's a start of a dialogue that we need to do, and I think we need to adopt standards that will empower us to speak to things that don't directly face 6A, but are involved with preservation. So I'm going to use an example. The Winslow Crocker House. Let us assume, we all know that house. It's a museum. Let's assume it's a private home. It faces Route 6A. It's a very important building. The backside of it is totally invisible from 6A. You cannot see anything of it. If I owned that house and I came before this committee and it was completely intact with 18th century windows and sheathing, and framing. And I said I want to knock out the entire back wall, demolish the old windows, and put in really beautiful modernist sheet glass windows on both first and second floor. In fact, I'm removing the heavy timber frame on the first floor to second floor, and I'm putting a steel beam, really modernist, beautiful, so I can look at my backyard. As it stands right now, this committee has no purview over that. None. You would have to approve my application. Even though I'm destroying historic material, even though I'm removing intact fabric, you would have no choice. Because our law states that if it's not visible from 6A, you have no purview over it. Well, this is a preservation committee, or we should certainly make it one. If this committee were to adopt the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic rehabilitation, in addition, as a supplement to our law, we would then have that power. We could speak to that. I'm sorry, we cannot approve your demolishing historic fabric of that. Even though you can't see it from 6A, you have original 12 over 12 windows. No, denied. So you can't see it. That's the first part of the law. But it is, historic fabric shall be retained and preserved and restored. It would empower us to, and I think it is our obligation. So if we don't want to simply be a committee that creates a false artificial Disney World appearance on Route 6A, which is really what we're empowered to do by the law, we need to, and we have the power to, and it is within our right to adopt those 10 standards which don't discuss design, they discuss the treatment of historic fabric, and I think it's something, we're not going to do it tonight, we must do, or else we really don't care about preservation. And I will add, the building I started about, it would have empowered you to require the retention of historic fabric rather than whatever you can, whatever is salvageable. We could have, the committee could have required the historic fabric to be retained because it would have been, quite frankly, your obligation to do so under our rules. So it's something we need to do, and if we don't do it, we're really concerned with artifice, with
I think what
facades.
you're talking about is though the entire Old Kings Highway, not just this board. I think it would have to be agreed by the entire Old
No,
Kings Highway.
that's not what Mr. Wilson said to me.
Really?
We have the power on it wouldn't apply to the entire Kings Highway. The town of Yarmouth, we are autonomous. We have that power. So let's do it. Let's do it and see what happens. How's that?
I'll second.
I'm in favor.
I can't vote
I haven't
tonight.
made a motion yet, but yeah, but yeah, I think we need to do it now. Just so you know, and I'll bring in materials. We'll put it on. Lisa or Mr. Chairman, maybe you can tell me how can we as a body not have an application as such, but have materials that are presented at a meeting that we brought. I'm bringing this to present to the meeting. I'm submitting this. It's not an application, but it's something to discuss. How does that work? I don't know the rules concerning that.
What are you talking?
So for example, if I had a list of 10 things that we wanted to adopt as part of our basic
You have to ask
principles,
Jim.
how can you simply put it on the agenda and then it's published so the public sees it? They're going to
Public has to
discuss
see it.
these things.
Doesn't Jim, the lawyer, have the answers to these
Jim,
questions?
the lawyer, does not want us to do this. And I disagree with him.
Based on what? Does he have law backing him up? And if he does, so be it.
He feels that it is something that we should have in our back pocket as a
This is
gold
too long a
standard
discussion
upon
to take
appeal.
on right now, so, because I gotta get out of here. This is too long. a
Well, then next time we'll continue to discuss it.
I do think Jim Wilson's opinion is critically important. He wrote the act.
But he's not a
So,
preservation
just a minute.
architect.
He wrote the act. So he is intimately familiar with the act and what it implies and what it states and what's doable and what's not doable. And his fear, I know from having spoken with him, is that the state legislature at any moment could pull the rug out from under the Old Kings Highway District.
Oh, don't mess with it.
I'm only
Basically, that's
telling
what he
you
says.
what my understanding of his
Yeah,
position
exactly the
is,
same.
that
Yeah,
we should try to focus on what's achievable and not push it so hard that we become viewed as obstructionists.
We are a paper tiger. I believe that we should not mess with the Old Kings Highway Regional Historic District Act. I believe that we, the Old Kings Highway Historic District Committee of Yarmouth, should adopt, in addition to that act, our own 10 standards to which we're going to be bound when it comes to historic resources. That is a different thing.
What I would like to do is, when I call Jim tomorrow to discuss this other matter, that I urge him to watch the recording of this meeting, and particularly all the comments that you just made, and get his reaction, his legal opinion reaction to it, and see precisely what he says. I'm not saying that we necessarily have to slavishly adhere to his opinion, but I think we should pay careful attention to it.
Well, I will point out that the act, the 10 standards are used on appeal
Yeah.
as an argument for why something should be upheld or denied.
I think,
By Mr. Wilson.
I think a lot of this could be accomplished through education, and we've not done a good job about, in educating the public. You know, if we do our job properly, we can protect people against making tragic mistakes that will devalue their properties. And I think we also need to prioritize. Focus on the most important structures, view them more stringently than we might.
What's our power, however?
That's what
My
needs
my
to be
Winslow
I
Crocker
think-
example, how about that? What's your comment to that? Did I say anything that was incorrect?
No.
So we have no power to prevent me from ripping out the back of my historic house.
I
It's
think we have the
entirely
power of
intact.
persuasion, of public influence. No, this is I think what happened, I'm not being Pollyanna about this, Rick. I think what happened tonight, we'll see. But what happened tonight with the 120, thank you, was potentially encouraging.
I really can't speak to that.
Well,
But
we'll see, we'll see. All right, I'm going to call a stop to this. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all.